Okay, so I've got Louise Brady with me. We're coming up to Cage Conflict this week. She's going to be fighting for a belt. If I am correct, I believe it might be the first women's belt that they've ever had.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. How do you feel fighting for a belt? You've had three fights. You've kind of come in. You've kind of blown the door off the amateur game to start off with, and to be fighting for a belt after your fourth fight against someone like Chloe. How does it feel to get that opportunity on such a good show like Cage Conflict?
It's class. Like I was fighting, I think my second ever amateur fight, which wasn't that long ago, was this year. It started this year, kind of. Was on Cage Conflict, and it was unbelievable show. Like it was so well ran. Even like just the atmosphere up there was great crack. Like it was so good to fight, and it was good experience. And we were kind of, I had a good opponent, Mel, at the time, and I was so nervous. I remember walking out, I was like, oh God, like, it was only my second one, and the first one was in Cork, which I was nervous for as well in front of the home crowd, but I'm excited to go back up and have that atmosphere again. But like for titles, I don't know, is it just like is it just a kind of me thing or something? But I just don't even think about the title. I'm like, obviously that's great and all, but it's just I have to get through this fight. That's the main thing I'm trying to focus on, just you know, minding my own training, making sure I'm like the title is a great bonus, especially like I think Liam was on to me. He said this was the first ever women's title fight, which is unbelievable. Um, for women on the scene anyway, like, it's a big thing to do, like.
Yeah, so yourself and Chloe, you're obviously going to be written into history in Cage Conflict.
Yeah.
And then obviously the winner will be the first one, will have a little bit more history. And what you make of the women's scene at the minute, because it seems to be blowing up. Like when I
Yeah.
first started, I want to say 3 years ago, just over 3 years ago, it was very hard to get two females matched. Whereas now, like, it's just like one of the shows recently had three. I think it was yours. Did they have
Mhm.
three? They had three on it. Like to have three on
Yeah.
the show was unbelievable. What do you make of the women's scene and how it's progressed and what you put down to that progression? Is it the people, the likes of Danny McCormick, Sean Bannon,
Mm.
Ashlyn years before? What you make of the scene and where do you think this kind of explosion has come from?
Yeah, no, it's such a difference even to when I started when I was a kid. Like, I remember like I was fighting boys and everything when I was a kid trying to get fights. Like it was hilarious. You'd walk into some of the jiu-jitsu events and you could have an 11-year-old girl against a 16-year-old girl because there was no one for them to fight. Um, but I think as well, like it has a lot to do with the promoters and making women, making sure there's a women's fight on their card. And they really, like, certain shows definitely push for it. Um and they do try and bring women along, and it's nice to see that as well nowadays. Like, it's not like it is still hard, don't get me wrong, but it's after getting a lot easier. I don't envy the likes of, the women in Ireland that started it off and had to kind of go through, and they had to travel a shit ton to get a fight, like, whereas we're kind of lucky. There's a lot of girls in Ireland now, and England as well. Like, at least it's not that far.
Yeah,
So
because I believe Danny McCormick, when I was speaking to her, she had to travel to the UK to get most of her fights
yeah.
before she went pro, and then she still found it hard to get matched. And like you said, is there's still like if you look at just say the welterweight division for men, you probably still wouldn't have as many females in that, but there's a good standard. There's a very good standard at the minute as well. And but what do you think has kind of brought all the females to kind of start going? Obviously, we've seen Jodie, who has a
Yeah.
lot of hype behind. She made her debut that was very anticipated. And then just like there is a lot of buzz around the women's game. What do you think has brought everyone to it? What brought you to it?
um I think it's just like, I think gyms as well have come a long way. Like, it starts in your gym. It starts like, kind of, women are different to men. That's just, that's the way life is. Like, it's just, there's no kind of, and I think once you don't avoid that, and a good coach and a good gym means a lot. They don't avoid that there's a difference between men and women. They kind of meet head on, and I'm able to train with the likes of like Aaron Maguire, Jack Maguire, Brian Manning, and even though there's no women turning up, I'm fighting these lads who are bigger than me. They're men, and I'm not coming out riddled with injuries and traumatized from my last session. I'm coming out. We're both getting something from each session. Um, because when I started, it was just in our gym. It was me and Fia, and now there's a whole group of women. But it's about keeping the women. It doesn't necessarily matter like how many women are in your gym. It's kind of more the attitude towards, welcoming them in. It's a little bit harder. It's a little bit more daunting, unfortunately. And I think that kind of it's more kind of the gym's approach rather than like, let's say, if I want to stay or not, it can kind of affect, even like I'm coaching classes now, beginners classes, and there's women will come up to you and say like, "Oh Jesus, like this is not at all how I expected this to be. Like I was expected to be intimidated by you or this, that, and the other." And you find out like the likes of these big characters in gyms are they're actually just normal people, and kind of normalizing the sport is not this crazy thing. Like it's just two people enjoying a sport that are going in for a fight, and it's a sport. It's not like I don't hate the person across from me. It's just I have to do it to win, like,
Yeah, and like you said, that's why I kind of started doing this is because I wanted to see people for like the likes of yourself. You're at the end of the day, you get up out of bed like I do and everyone else does in the morning. You have to put your
Yeah,
socks on the same way we
yeah,
do, you know. But
yeah,
then you've got this added pressure, and then I just wanted to highlight what you do because I just think like what especially when you're amateur and people are working. And I seen like Emily from your gym is someone who does
yeah.
crazy hours. She works a lot,
Crazy.
and
She's literally like just before I came out for the interview, she was lying on the couch in the gym. She said, "Tell Dave I said hi." Lying on the couch trying to get a kip before training starts. Like that's the dedication that these athletes have to go through. Like, and anyone that I stand across from in the cage, like I've major respect for. It's kind of like you know what they're going through. You see it.
yeah, because it's an unfair like because obviously I have good relationships with people, and sometimes when there's two people that I'm really friendly with are fighting, I'm like this is so hard to watch because I know what
Yeah,
both guys or girls have put in
yeah,
to get there, and unfortunately there has to be the one winner. And but
yeah.
99% of the time you will see the respect after. There's very few and in
100%.
between. And do you think obviously with cage fighting, you've talked about the way the gyms welcome people in. Do you think the perception of MMA is different? Like people expect it to be violent, like these people that are like unsavory characters. Whereas I find MMA, I've been in different circles, whereas GA, soccer, whatever,
Mhm.
I find combat sports are probably the nicest, most humble people. And is that one
100%.
of the surprises people get when they come to your beginners classes, how friendly you actually are and
Yeah.
welcoming and open?
Like, when I was younger, I was in everything. Like, I was in I was in soccer, swimming, everything you could name, I was in everything. And the attitude was kind of like, sometimes I found it was kind of who you knew rather than what you knew. And there's kind of politics of playing soccer as well, like who's getting picked for a team. Were they actually deserving of it, or were they
Just
the
the father
coaches,
on the
this, that,
board.
and the other? Yeah. So like I find, especially like walking into a gym as a female now, a lot of the beginners would say like, it's, even if we see a girl come in, it's like, "Oh my God, another girl. We want her to stay. We don't want her to leave. We don't wanna traumatize her. We wanna, we want more women." And it's becoming a thing now where people are seeing the benefits of having more women to train with rather than kind of, like, making it a competition between their training partners as such.
Yeah, because it's about getting better and enjoying the process. And like
Yeah,
that, not everyone that goes to the gym is going to be a fighter. Like people think all these gyms are just all fighters. I'd say the vast majority of gyms are made up by people who just want to do jits or they just want to do something or another. So I
yeah,
like your approach to it. But obviously, you've got this fight. It's a fantastic fight against Chloe. What do you make of your opponent? I think she's very good. She's very tricky on the ground.
yeah.
She's beaten some good girls, and her losses have only been to the likes of Sarah Elliott, Gemma
Mm.
Owl, who's now professional. What do you make of Chloe and what are you expecting from this fight? Because it's gonna be a cracker.
Yeah, I think this fight is gonna be really good. Like, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's, like, it's definitely my biggest test, as a fighter. Like it's a big test for me to fight for a title, and in the Belfast crowd. I think Chloe's from Belfast.
She's from up around the edge. She will have a lot of support though because it won't
Okay.
be too far. But she's from Rodney's gym, so he is Belfast. Forgive me, I don't know exactly, but she's
Yeah, but
around.
like, it's nice to, like, I obviously experienced from the shows in Cork, being in Cork, having a lot of support myself. It's nice to see the other side of it as well. For me, it takes a little bit of pressure off me not having like my whole family there to watch and stuff. But it's like, it's definitely, I'm ready for the test. I've kind of upskilled in this camp. 100%. You know, I've everything, like small things that you wouldn't think of, like your nutrition, your, you know, I was always very good at kind of managing all that anyway, but we're having a whole team now and kind of built around me, and they're all kind of focusing on this one. So it's a different feeling to like my first few amateur fights, which you're kind of trying to feel it out and you're just learning. Now it's kind of like, okay, pressure's on now, like this, it's kind of all or nothing kind of thing. So, and like Chloe is a top level opponent to be against, like, you know, she's a strong girl, she's tough out, like, you know.
Yeah, I've watched a couple of fights, and they've always been exciting fights as well. But I
100%.
say one thing you probably don't like is probably the drive that you're going to have to do.
Oh
What is
man,
the length of the drive? Do I want to say 5.5, 6 hours?
five, I think it's about five, maybe. That was when I was driving up the last time, I think about five. So yeah.
Yeah, that's like what time. Like, do you leave in the morning? Do you come the night before, or what way does it work?
In the morning, up and down in the one day.
That's like more than a day's work and driving alone and then having to fight. And does that affect you in any way, or do you drive physically drive the car yourself, or do you have an equip in there, or are you just kind of mentally preparing? Like, have you
Um,
managed that journey?
I this time around, my coach will be driving. I'll be going with him as well. Um, and yeah, just sleep in the car really, get out then, stretch, do the usual, have a walk around and get the legs going again. You know, it's great.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a fantastic fight. And cage conflict, like if you were to lift that belt, like I said, the belt for you is more about the test. But if you
Yeah,
were to lift the belt and be the first person in history to have that belt, like what kind of a feeling do you think that would evoke from you at the time, or is it what you just
unbelievable.
have to experience?
I don't even think I could describe it now. Like it's gonna be unbelievable. Like to have that, to have my second fight on the show and then to only two fights later lifting a belt, fighting for a belt, insane. Do you know?
Yeah, no, it is going to be good. And obviously, I was at your last fight where you got the TKO finish. And once you got in position, you looked, I kind of knew once you got mounts, it was going to be over. That was a fantastic fight. Like, once you got into the mount position, did you feel that, like, this is, and you dropped some bombs as well. I think I have
Yeah.
the video still as well. Once you got into that position, do you know at that stage that I was going to control this girl and it was going to be over from there? And how did it
Yeah.
feel to get the finish on the home show?
I think like with, you know, with my style of kind of jiu-jitsu anyway, like it was kind of, I had the Russian arm tie kind of, and I was, you know, she was scrambly. It was the first round. She had a lot of energy, and I was kind of waiting. Everyone said it to me afterwards. They were like, it was like you threw punches, and then you realized you could actually hit her. It wasn't training anymore. And then I just rained down the shots. It was like, you know, it was my first time ever doing a TKO, you know, in front of people on an actual fight where you can hit hard. And it was like the switch went off. I was like, oh shit, I'm hitting her, like, you know. It was weird. It was like it was because I've never done it before, you know. That's how like new I am to kind of learning these things, and but like their experiences that I think just send you up levels, you know. And amateur as well, like it's a big thing of like, you know, people are focusing in on people's fights and watching them and stuff. Like you change so much. If I was looking back at all my fights, like I could be a different person in all of them because it's a completely different approach to each fight. But yeah, the finish was class in front of everyone. Like it was unbelievable. Like the the adrenaline. I literally there's a clip of me about to walk out, and I turned to Aaron and Jack and I was like, "Fuck this." I was like, "I hate this." I was about to, my song started playing, and then I was like, "Fuck this, guys." They're dancing in the background to my song, and I'm like white as a ghost, being like, "I hate this. Like, why do I do this?" Walked out, and I was like, "Okay, we're going. Like, it's fine." Do you know, it's like a switch that you learn to just turn on. Um, and yeah, it's kind of a repetition thing. Like this camp that I've put down, I feel like this stage in, let's say, my last weight cut, I was tired. You know, I was bait, and not that it was much of a difference in the weight cut, but this time around, I'm feeling much better, and these things definitely play a big part in like your attitude in the fight as well. Coming into the fight like mentally as well. So yeah,
Yeah, because like that, if you've got your nutrition down, you're coming in lighter, and all these kind
yeah,
of you're checking off these things as you go along. Obviously, it's going to make you feel a lot more calm going in, and rather than kind of getting to fight week, having to do the weight. And you've got a good team between. Obviously, I know. there is people in, is it Sean does nutrition? I don't know if he does yours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you've actually got a good like team of not just coaches and stuff, but like other things that are needed to be a fighter,
Mhm.
like nutrition. You've got management there. You've got a
Yeah.
clothing company as well. So you've kind of,
Yeah.
it's a good little group there. What's the gym like at the minute? Obviously, Brian made his pro debut there. You've got Jack, who's going to be fighting, who's going to smoke this boy on Octagon.
Yeah.
God, I've round one. But what's the gym like right now? Because the talent is just streaming out of it at the minute.
Insane. Like to train with these lads, like, Jack's pro, Brian, to be even in their company, just to watch them spar. Like Brian and Jack were doing fight rounds yesterday, bank holiday Monday, fight rounds, and watching those rounds, like you learn so much picking up from them and how they, how professional they are and how they go into things. And like it's also the thing of like, like we've Evan Horgan,
Yeah.
unbelievable. Like what an animal. Like he's like just tearing through the amateur scene. And then like we also have really good women. Like we've Jodie, Emily, Fia, like all top level girls that you get to train with and kind of have more of an equal kind of, you can kind of match yourself to say, okay, these are girls that are top level in the country. Like so if I can go with them, I can kind of go with anyone really. Like so.
Yeah, and it's good like that, that there's no one like that. There's not one person here, there's not one person there. You're all kind of around the same and you're all consistently making each other better. And like that is, I don't, is there a gym that has four females with that level? I don't know, but maybe there isn't, that will get better over time. But like the gym as a whole, talk to us about the likes of Aaron. I've met Aaron and Jack, and I've been beside them corner and all. Just tell them what
Yeah.
they kind of mean to you as a coach and as a mentor going up. Because for me, they're top class people.
Oh, come here, like they're insane. Like the gym is like they're like my family at this point, they practically reared me. Like I was in the gym since I was 11 years old, like, so it's it's good to have people there that you can 100% trust and that are like your team, as well. Like same as um Alpha Fight Management, my fight manager, like, knowing these people for so long and having complete trust in them, that I know, like, if Aaron's saying we're going to do this, I'm like, yeah, no bother. There's no questions asked because I know like how much he's invested in me, and um, but yeah, they're great people. And besides from that, like the gym they created was, the vibe is just completely different to anything I've experienced before. Like you walk in and it's not this big serious kind of, you know, dictatorship kind of thing that goes on, it's just everyone's equal. It doesn't matter if you're on your first day or you're a pro fighter, you're all the same. And everyone kind of, you know, respects that, and everyone can learn from each other that way. There's no kind of competition with your training partners. There's healthy competition, we'll have the crack and whatever, but like it's ideal. You're like a sponge then, you're all just learning from each other constantly. So yeah.
You know, I love the gym and I love the people in it. And then when you have the likes of Brian Manning, I can only imagine how crazy that can be.
Crazy.
And then he's a character in himself. But like it is a fantastic gym. You're doing fantastic things. And like that, I always find the boys are quite fair and they're quite honest. If they feel their fighter's losing, they don't try to tell you like
100%. Yeah.
they don't try to say like, oh, you're doing well. They're like, Louise, just say if you're losing, Louise,
Yeah.
you need to finish. Like you like
Yeah.
it's here. And I haven't seen them complain so much, but like I said, I love the gym. I love what's going on right now. I'm gonna love watching this fight. This could be potentially one of the fights of the night, in my opinion. I'm gonna let you go. It's been an absolute pleasure. Is there anything you want to say before you go, or anyone you want to shout out? And thank you so much.
Um, Thanks so much for having me on. I suppose I have to shout out people now. So MMA Cork, obviously. Aaron, Jack, and all my teammates helped me. One of the lads, Devin, has been one of my key training partners for this. So he's every Wednesday he's has to do fight rounds with me, and he's injured and he still has to come in. So thanks to Devin, my nutritionist Sean, and my fight manager Barry, Alpha Fight Management, Alpha Clothing Apparel. And again, thanks so much, Dave, for having me on.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to see the fight. I will see you on Saturday and best of skill.
Perfect. Thanks so much.